Stay on top of stories about stocks that may impact the market or your portfolio today in Stocks Making News.
Well, United Airlines CEO and 2 other company execs are out amid a federal investigation. Tracey, Ryniec, Dave Bartosiak here with me to pick this story apart and any impact it might have on the company as a whole. News broke out earlier this week. We're sitting here on September the 10th talking about this. And so basic background, Chicago-based United Continental Holdings, parent of United Airlines, replaced its CEO, 2 other top execs, saying that the departures are linked to internal and federal probes related to an alleged improper relationship with the port authorities of New York and New Jersey, right? So United says all changes effective immediately. This comes at an interesting time because it comes at a time, Tracey, when United is making overall record profits, but still struggling with its flights being on time, complaints from customers, technology glitches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, another thing to note, the interim CEO, not an airline guy.
Right.
Is this good or bad?
But he's not the interim. That's also interesting. He is the guy, which that is interesting because you think they might go to an interim guy. But instead they just went, he's our man, we're putting him in there. So I do think that provides them with some stability.
But not an airline guy. No,
he's railroad, and that's interesting too. It's still in transportation, and the good thing is he's dealt with both unions and the whole area of a wide network. You know, I mean, the railroad CSX is in, most of the East Coast. So he has this whole background, and I do think that could be a good thing that he's not actually an airline man. He was on the board since 2010, so he does know what's going on at United. But he has a pretty good reputation with the workers, and I guess he's taking a 90-day tour to go speak with all the employees. That should be good. The basic thing going on with the airlines, though, is the fuel costs. That's really pushed up earnings. That's why they have the record earnings here. I was looking at some of their earnings history, and only 3 years ago they made like $1.31 per share, and this year they're expecting to make $11.07. So you can really see where that $45 a barrel oil price is really factoring in there.
And they report in October, right?
But they have been reporting their monthly load factors and capacity numbers, and this is the thing that has been bothering a lot of the analysts this summer, is that despite the low gas or oil prices, demand is still pretty good, but they've been increasing capacity slowly, and in the airline industry that's kind of the kiss of death because that means your load does come down and they just can't help themselves. They know demand is there, and so they start adding, but it's just not good. Some of the airlines did warn last quarter. This stock is really cheap. They're only trading at like 5 times. And so you do look at it and think, is this a value trap? Are these earnings going to sustain? I did look at next year, and you can see that they are expected to come down a bit from next year, a little bit over $8. That still would make them pretty cheap here. They got the new CEO. He's going to have to go in there and make a lot of changes with just even personnel, and I think basically, the viewpoint the customers have about the company. But if anyone can, it sounds like he might be the guy.
Well, this is a multifaceted story here because while the bottom line looks good overall, we said record overall earnings, the first 6 months of this year, earnings did lag a bit. Down 2.6% from a year earlier. So does he also have to pay attention to beefing up revenues?
Yes, obviously, that's always an issue. But United, despite all their problems, they're kind of hanging in there. But he's got to get a handle on some of these technology issues. I know I'm a United customer, and even just 2 months ago, I attempted to buy a ticket, just a regular ticket on their website. I got to the part where I could choose my seats, and it kept malfunctioning. I did this 2 days in a row thinking, oh, I'll just come back tomorrow and buy it. It was still doing it. It did it for several days until it actually finally allowed me to go through. And that's just that you can't have that. That's just crazy.
Interesting.
And not in today's day and age.
No.
Dave, a conference call on September the 8th, at that call, analysts did ask how the new leadership's going to be dealing with all of this turmoil, revenues, and everything that Tracey's been talking about. Reportedly, no specific answers given to that question to the analysts. Shares of United Continental Holdings declined about 12.5% year to date, right? So does all of this news just put more downward pressure on a stock that's already on the downswing?
You hope not, right? And if you take a look at the stock chart, it looks like it did get beat up, over the last few months. So if you look at the summer, right, it really didn't do so hot. Shares started to slide here a little bit, had a little bit of a rally towards the end, and then all of a sudden we get hit with the August, madness that happened in China, and everybody got hit during that. And this is a pattern I've seen a lot. If you look, basically when it falls off of the cliff in late August, it was the 24th, when it bottomed out, hit the same area where it's been trading at throughout kind of June and July. And then it caught a little bit of a bounce. It's got a little bit of a bid here. I did notice it's a Zacks rank number 2 buy still.
It is.
And I think it has style scores of A across the board here, which is pretty good. And from the momentum aspect on that, the momentum style score tells you that it has some strength relative to its peers and that volumes have been picking up a little bit. So those are both kind of good signs for the stock. It's so tough because everything got beat up so bad at the end of August, and so you got to kind of look at it from a relative basis. Is like, okay, how bad is it compared to how bad it got, right? And when it came down, it looks like it hit support, and the buyers kind of stepped in. So I think that the worst of it is kind of in the rear view mirror, even though planes don't have rear view mirrors, I don't think. Those would be big mirrors. So I think the worst of it is behind it, and it looks pretty decent right here. There's a little bit of momentum coming in on the stock, we've seen kind of across the board. So hopefully things continue to go well.
All right, we'll have to put this one in the follow-up file. I'm sure there's going to be more news going into the future. Do either of you own this?
No.
No.
Okay.
And I'm not flying United on my trip to Austin, Texas either.
Oh, okay. Didn't know you had one coming up.
I do.
Thanks for that. You can get on over to Zacks.com. If you're not there already watching this video, check out more news on other companies, interesting blogs, and check out the data on companies that you want to check on. And also, if you're watching our videos on YouTube, don't forget you can subscribe to them there and even comment on them, and we welcome the feedback. With Tracey and Dave, I'm Terry Ruffalo.